Right, so it's another quick video blog this morning, and this time we're going to be talking about WordPress security updates and backups. Generally speaking, people have two attitudes towards WordPress updates. They either press the button straight away every single time, or they ignore it altogether, worried about what will happen if the update goes wrong. And the right approach is somewhere in the middle. Updates are really important, but you can't underestimate the possibility that they can also go wrong. 98% of the time you press the update button, everything goes fine, and within 10-15 minutes your website is running the same way as it was before, depending on how many plugin updates you've got to do as well as the core. It's that 2% when something goes wrong that can cause you all the problems, and it can take hours and even days to sort out what actually has taken your website down. The best approach for updates is to have a test site. That way you can actually test any updates on the test site. Anything goes wrong, then you can work out why, and your live website is not affected. If that's not possible for you, then always schedule your updates at a time when you've actually got time to sort out any issues if something goes wrong. The worst thing you can do is do it 10 minutes before you've got to go out. For most sites, there's little risk. For the biggest risk, tends to be with plugins like WooCommerce or plugins that have got a lot more functionality. For those sort of plugins, you tend to find there's a warning underneath the plugin, particularly with something like WooCommerce. It will say, this is a big update, we advise you to back up before you actually run the update. The next thing to consider is actually, do you understand what to do with your backups if something goes wrong? Most of the backup plugins, certainly the free ones, will back up your files and they back up your database, but they don't necessarily actually give you an easy way of putting all this back if something goes wrong. So it's always worth familiarising yourself with how you would restore your site, or at the very least, if you are going to need your web developers help, make sure you don't run a load of updates when your web developer is away on holiday. What I tend to do is schedule in updates for once a month. I tend to do them on a Sunday or on a time when I know I'm not getting as much traffic. For your business, that will depend on who your customers are and when you actually get the most traffic. Always be aware, even if an update only takes a few minutes, is putting your website into maintenance mode. So those few minutes while your update is running, your website is down. So don't tend to do them in the middle of the day when you've got a lot of customers about. Your best bet is to do them a lot earlier in the morning. I'm quite fond of doing them later on in the evening after my main office hours, because then if anything goes wrong, I've got quite a lot of time before 9 o'clock the next morning when I want my website to be up and running again. And none of this is meant to actually scare you about running an update. It's just really to make you start thinking about when you do your updates, do you understand how to return your website from your backups if anything goes wrong, and also making sure that you actually store your backups somewhere other than your website.